So, welcome to our online course for overcoming anxiety. So, Module 1 is an introduction to anxiety. Many people are suffering with mental illnesses in this day and age due to the many pressures of everyday life, and although there's an increased awareness, understanding is still lacking. So, this course is not only designed to help broaden understanding of anxiety, but it's also designed to help people by providing the tools and certain exercises that can be implemented in life. We want to help you overcome the anxiety that you're experiencing. So, what is anxiety? Anxiety is a normal thing that we all experience. Years and years ago, we had many dangers that we had to survive. There were wild animals, dangerous terrain. We had to protect ourselves from those kind of things. Humans developed a way to prepare our body for these perceived threats, and this is where anxiety comes in. Anxiety is characterized as a feeling of unease or worry. It's this feeling that is what would help our body prepare for the fight or flight reaction. Our brain will interpret the situation in a certain way and decide whether it's dangerous for us or not. If it thinks it's dangerous, anxiety will kick in and we get those weird feelings. The fight or flight reaction is an integral one for our survival. Our body is given a signal by the brain to prepare us with enough adrenaline to run away from something or to have enough strength to fight it. It's the perfect solution for physical threats. However, we live in a day and age where the majority of threats aren't physical. We worry about school. We worry about having enough money to live. We worry about people's judgments about us. All of these are valid concerns, but they mean that we end up feeling anxious. It's just that the physical response for anxiety isn't needed most of the time, which is why it becomes so unpleasant. It's something that we don't process properly. Anxiety is part of being human, and there's nothing wrong with experiencing it. However, anxiety disorders are another thing altogether. Anxiety disorders come about when your brain perceives a situation as threatening when there isn't a danger. That signal from your brain causes your body to have a physical reaction, which can be highly unpleasant, and then that makes day-to-day tasks incredibly difficult. Now, with anxiety comes a lot of physical responses. We are all unique, meaning the physical response to anxiety that we experience differs from person to person. There are some similarities, though, which are covered here. Sometimes the physical response can be the scariest element, as it's something we don't have control over, or so it seems at the time. By understanding that response and what it means, we can remove that element of fear. So shaking is a pretty common one, and it's caused by the adrenaline released in your body, which is preparing you for that physical action that you might need to take. When we are anxious because of a non-physical threat, it means we have no use for that adrenaline, and then it can be processed by our body through shaking. Sweating is also caused by the brain's fight or flight response. The adrenaline release triggers our sweat glands. There is a theory that the reason we sweat is because of evolution. There have been studies indicating that when you smell someone else's panic-induced sweat, it signals our brain to be more alert to emotional and social signals. That leads to the theory that through evolution, we sweat when we're anxious so that those around us are able to become alert to the threat. Restlessness is also a part of the fight or flight response. When we sense danger, we are filled with the energy we need to run away or fight it. But nowadays we don't have many physical dangers that make us anxious. They're more psychological. Because of this, we get restless and fidgety. We need to move about, but we shouldn't or we can't. We're in a situation where we're supposed to sit still, and that can be a really difficult thing to cope with. Nausea is also a pretty common one in anxiety, because anxiety causes your brain to send signals to your body to prepare it for that fight or flight response. This gets kind of repetitive, so I apologise, but that is all anxiety is about. So it affects every part of your body, and that includes your stomach, which is why anxiety can cause nausea. The blood's pumping faster, your muscles get tense, you're breathing faster, and that will all affect your body. And if it's for longer periods of time, meaning the trigger hasn't been removed, it can make you physically sick. The impact on your life can be pretty huge. All of the mental and physical symptoms that accompany anxiety can have a huge impact. It usually starts with avoiding the triggers for your anxiety, and this could mean that you avoid going to certain places, seeing certain people, or doing certain things. After that, it usually escalates with the number of things you avoid, and you can left feeling isolated. The bad thing about avoidance is that it confirms to your brain that a trigger is actually dangerous. You left it, you had to get away from it. You feel better once you're out of it. And it's that cycle that we end up fearing that thing again, so our brain tries to protect us by giving us the strength we need to fight or run away. Now, anxiety often stops you doing things you would normally do, and it can make everyday tasks incredibly hard. Going food shopping may seem too much, or maybe you feel like you can't go to work. The ways in which anxiety can impact your life are endless, and what's more important is we need to find a way to break that cycle. The journey through anxiety is a long and often painful one, and there are many challenges. There can be down days, and you can feel like you can't do anything. But it's better to accept those days and just understand it's a passing moment. It doesn't matter if you can't do anything for one day. Give yourself time to rest and relax. Now, anxiety, as I mentioned before, is triggered by something. Anxiety doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from our brain seeing something as a threat and that we need to protect ourselves from. With anxiety disorders, we often have a specific thing that causes this anxiety, and it usually isn't something that is actually dangerous to us. These are referred to as triggers. We are all different, so triggers are unique to each of us. For some, it may be driving a car, and for others, it may be being a passenger in a car. Either way, the result is usually the same, and we end up trying to avoid it. When anxiety disorders get really bad, we end up with a long list of triggers, which can leave us feeling hopeless. However, when you analyse those triggers, you may find that they all have a common factor, and maybe it's only that factor that causes the anxiety, not the whole situation. Anxiety is usually caused by a thought, whether it be a conscious or a subconscious one. That thought then leads to chemicals being released by your brain to prepare your body to deal with that threat. Those physical symptoms can then lead to undesirable behaviours such as leaving the place, shaking, hyperventilating, or having an anxiety or panic attack. That then means that the next time you think about that situation again, you'll remember how you felt, which can then lead to avoidance. As you can see, one small thought can set off a very unpleasant chain reaction. A lot of talking therapies work on finding that triggering thought that can lead to extreme anxiety. For many people, this is helpful, but if the thought's subconscious, then it can be much harder to pinpoint. Becoming familiar with your chain reaction can help you get through it. By understanding the behaviours that are caused by anxiety, you can work on controlling them or modifying them. For example, if you struggle with shaking, try muscle relaxation techniques to see if it will help you calm down. Anxiety actually doesn't just affect the person who's experiencing it, it can affect those around them. Many people who do not experience it, they struggle to understand, and they may have a prejudice or a fear of it, and they can often struggle to be supportive. Everybody experiences anxiety. It's a part of evolution. Anxiety is designed to protect us from the threats of the world. Anxiety disorders are not experienced by everybody. That's the first crucial difference. The second difference is the severity. There are so many different levels of anxiety that it can be hard to imagine what it feels like to other people. Sometimes anxiety can feel like a mild stomachache, and at other times it can feel like you're being suffocated. And I mean literally suffocated. People may not understand how bad anxiety can get, so it's important to outline what areas you struggle with if necessary. Don't feel as though you have to explain or justify to people, it's just that it can help those close to you understand the situation better. Other people can often feel helpless when a loved one is experiencing bad anxiety. It starts off with the brain, but then it turns into a physical problem. And sometimes words can help, but sometimes they don't. Many people struggle to find a way to help those they care about. So in conclusion for this module, it's clear that everyone experiences anxiety, but on different levels. Those of us who struggle with severe anxiety disorders can find everyday life difficult. We have triggers that set off our anxiety, but once we know what they are, we can understand them better, which helps in overcoming them. Anxiety can affect many people, even those who don't experience it themselves. However, by gaining further insight, we are able to develop the strategies for dealing with it. If you head on over to our website, you'll be able to download the worksheets for this module. Thanks for watching.